Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, and it's great to see you again. Now today I'm going to talk to you about two things. First of all, I'm going to talk about this overcoat that I'm wearing and some of the virtues of investing in a good quality overcoat. And secondly, although it's the same topic in a way, I'm going to talk about my best ever score on eBay, because as you know, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, of paramount importance to me is the value proposition. Now I love style and I love elegance for gentlemen, for chaps, but it has to be proportionately cost effective, because you know most of us don't have access to unlimited funds, and we need to be able to be elegant and smart within a budget. So if you've watched the channel, you will know that I go to great lengths to source the products that I wear, the things that I love wearing. So let's talk about this jacket first of all. Now this overcoat I'm wearing, I should say first of all, I love overcoats when it comes to the winter. Now it's the end of March here in the UK and I'm in the great outdoors. It's not been a particularly cold winter, but it's still quite cold, and an overcoat has been required, not necessarily on a daily basis, but if you want to look smart wearing a suit, formal or even informal clothes, there is nothing which fits the bill like a proper gentleman's overcoat like the one I'm wearing today. And I'll talk about that as we go along. Now, I'm actually wearing a Crombie overcoat. Now, Crombie is a heritage manufacturer which probably has no rivals when it comes to the manufacturing of elegant gentlemen's overcoats. Crombie's been around since the year 1805, the great year of the Battle of Trafalgar, and since that time it's been in continuous manufacture of not overcoats but the material that the overcoats are made of. Of course they make overcoats now, but they started off in the 1800s making this wonderful all natural fibre woolen products, the wool, the material, which is now made into the famous Crombie overcoats. It was founded back then by John Crombie, who started, as I say, making cloth up there in Scotland, and it used to be sold to be manufactured into garments of all kinds, until finally it became sort of synonymous with quality overcoats. And they are renowned as they are now, way back then, with excellence of manufacture, fantastic quality products and unrivaled craftsmanship, which, as you know, are the fundamental building blocks to any great products. Now their history is like a remarkable journey through the history of tailoring. In 1861 they made uniforms for the Confederate Army in the American Civil War because of that wonderful grey colour, and this one I'm wearing here is probably, you might describe it as a Confederate grey, but yes, they made overcoats and uniforms for the Confederate Army in the American Civil War, having to run the blockades to get those products over to those soldiers. In 1860 they began an association with the Russians, which persists to this day, making their famous Russian coat, which with its thick woolen fibres was ideal for the Russian winters, of course, where it was so cold. And those coats were worn famously by tsars and politicians. Mikhail Gorbachev was more recently one of the leaders of the Russian state who wore the Crombie overcoat, and it became something of a badge of honour to own a Crombie overcoat, because not just the smartness, but because they are ideal at keeping the awful winter weather at bay. Now in World War I, Crombie ceased manufacturing their fashionable clothing to make uniforms, and they stepped up to the mark like so many. I often find this when I look into the histories of many of these heritage manufacturers from the British state, that they often turn their hand to war manufacturing. And of course in Crombie's case it was the manufacturing of uniforms, particularly greatcoats as they are known, those very heavy overcoats which are worn by soldiers, sailors and airmen in these times of conflict. These greatcoats which keep you warm. And in fact in the First World War, 1/10 of all of the greatcoats that were issued to soldiers were manufactured by Crombie. Now, Crombie voluntarily turned its services over to the manufacturing of war products, even though there was a tiny profit margin in it. They stepped away from making their fashionable clothes, so they really did step up to the mark and serve the national service when it was necessary. Now, in between the wars, they became very fashionable again, making clothing for the celebrities, and they were known and renowned for being worn by kings, by emperors, and celebrities of all kinds, who were all seen wearing the famous Crombie overcoats. In the Second World War again, they stepped up to the mark and they manufactured uniforms for soldiers, sailors and airmen where it was necessary, and again, they served their nation proudly and well. After the Second World War, again, they entered this golden era of traditional heritage clothing, where they would be seen on the backs of kings. They would be seen being worn by American presidents. We know that John F. Kennedy, Eisenhower, Ronald Reagan, they all were owners of Crombie overcoats, and in fact, when John F. Kennedy was inaugurated, both he and the outgoing President Eisenhower both wore Crombie coats for that very auspicious occasion. Now, Crombie continues to make their traditional clothing, which never goes out of style, never goes out of fashion, because it's cut traditionally. How can something which is so clearly classic ever go out of fashion? So when you buy a Crombie coat, you know that you've got something which will stand the test of time, that will sit in your wardrobe, and it can even be something you can pass down to the generations in your family. If you have a son, he can wear your Crombie coat in years to come. So they're a wonderful thing to buy into. Now, one of the only downsides to Crombie is that they are very expensive. Classic elegance often comes at a price, and that is the blocker to most people owning these fabulous coats. I mean, I've owned this coat now for the whole winter season, and I have to say I've worn it in the colder days this year. I've been up in London wearing this. You might have seen me wearing this in some of my previous videos, this particular coat, and I have to say I own no warmer clothing than this natural wool fibre coat. Now, of course, many people today choose to go down the route of buying, technical fabrics, Gore-Tex and these puffer jackets. They're great, they keep you fabulously warm. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't wear this if I was skiing. When I go skiing, I wear technical fabrics because they're better designed for that type of activity. This coat I'm wearing now is designed for the activity which I take part in when I wear it. Looking smart, looking classically elegant. But as I say, one of the blockers is the cost. A Crombie overcoat today, if you go on their website, will cost you anything between 700 and 1,000 British pounds. So they are far from inexpensive. In fact, they're quite the opposite. They're quite expensive compared to some of the products that you can buy for a proportionate price. But as I say, when you buy into one of these things, you're buying into it for life. It's something you can wear in perpetuity. As long as you don't gain too much weight, you can always get into it, and it'll always serve you well, looking smart and playing the part for you, giving you those best first impressions that you make on people. When you go to events where you have to appear in public in the winter time. For me, this jacket always comes out for things like Remembrance Day, which is always in November, where I want to look smart, where I want to appear in public looking my best. Now, the other part of this video is what was my best ever score on eBay. And I have to say, it is this wonderful Crombie overcoat. As I say, this coat, if I was to buy it today, would cost me anything between 750 to £1,000. I don't have that financial capability to spend that sort of money on a coat. So I look to buy them second-hand or pre-owned, however you want to call it. Because, overcoats, they don't tend to be worn every day. They tend to have long lifespans, and they tend to enter the sort of pre-owned market from time to time. You can look for them in charity shops or thrift shops, or you can use things like eBay, auction sites, to track them down. And I've been looking for a long time to find a good Crombie overcoat at a proportionate price. knowing that they cost more than I can afford to buy them from the retail outlets. So earlier in sort of autumn of 2019, I was doing a bit of research, doing a regular search on eBay for an overcoat, and I saw this coat. Now, I didn't recognize it as a Crombie at the time, but I had a look at the listing, and it wasn't even listed as a Crombie overcoat. But when I looked through the pictures, I saw on the inside the label clearly said Crombie, and I really reviewed the listing, and I could see that whoever was selling it probably wasn't aware that Crombie was such an important name when it comes to the value of the coat, because a non-Crombie overcoat, you know, can have anything like 1/10 of the value to a coat which has got the Crombie brand name on it. So again, I researched it, and I could see, yes, it was definitely an original Crombie coat. It appeared to be in excellent condition, and I made an offer. Now, it was listed as a reserve starting price of £100, which seems like a fairly large amount of money, and it was listed as being nearly new. So I thought, you know, I would be prepared to pay £100 for a Crombie coat. So I made a bid of £100, got over the reserve. Nobody else bid because it was quite a rich asking price, £100. So I was the only bidder, and I bought this coat for £100. Now, as it turned out, the owner was going on holiday, going to visit family, and he was prepared to drop the coat off to me personally because, you know, to send it through the post, it's a bulky item. It was easier for him to drop it off as he was having to drive past where I live on his way to his relative. Actually, it was a, you know, many hundreds of miles journey they were making. It was just coincidental that I happened to be in the middle of his journey. So when he dropped the coat off, I was overjoyed to see that it was still in its original packaging, you know, the outer polythene casing which it would have been delivered in. And when I looked in the pocket, I found that it actually had the original label from Crombie, which gave me a great deal of confidence in the thought that I'm buying something which was genuinely very, very new. And then the gentleman explained to me that the coat had been owned by his father, who was now deceased, and that he had bought it purely to attend his younger brother's wedding. He'd worn the coat on that one occasion, never worn it again, and sadly when he died, his son was now in the process of, you know, selling off his father's his wardrobe. So he put this up for sale, and I was the lucky person who took ownership of this wonderful Crombie coat, having it only been worn on one occasion by its original owner. And it had been stored in its original packing, still with its original label in the pocket. It's a £1,000 coat, and I paid £100 for it. But the point I want to make here, chaps, is that these deals, these little bargains are there for us. What we have to do is do the research, know what you're looking for, so that when you see it for sale, you can pounce and not make a killing. Nobody wants to rip anybody off, but, you know, I got this coat for £100. The chap was more than happy to take £100, and I was more than happy to walk away with an original Crombie overcoat, which I will wear for the rest of my life, and I will pass on to my son. It will keep me warm, and I like to think the original owner would probably be happy knowing that somebody's getting a great deal of love and enjoyment out of a product, out of a coat that he bought and has now passed on back into the Chap's chain. So there we are. That's my journey with this Crombie coat. I recommend Crombie to you. I have never felt warmer in the elements than when I'm wearing this. It protects me, it keeps me looking smart and feeling great. And if you get lucky, you can own one as well for a fraction of the price if you don't have the financial capability of buying one from a retail outlet. So good luck to you on that front. Now, I hope you'd enjoyed this video today. If you have, please don't forget, click that thumbs up button for me, show me that you like it, and subscribe while you're there as well. That way you won't miss any of our future material. And please do leave me a comment in the comment section below, because I love to hear your little anecdotes and your little scores on eBay as well. It really motivates me and knows that we're sharing good information together in this Chaps community, where we are on a journey to smartness together. So thanks for listening today. Please do take care. And I look forward to seeing you again here at the Chap's Guide very, very soon.